Well, hello folks, we're finally back on our Pontiac 350 stroker engine. Our friend Glenn down in South Texas, I think way south of Houston, has been waiting patiently for all of his parts. So just yesterday we finally got all the custom pistons, the crank, the rods, the rings, finally came in from Butler. That was all ordered back in March, so we just finally received them today. The Pontiac 350, I don't think it's not as common as an engine in the Pontiac community as your 400 strokers and your 455s and whatnot. Not that it's not a common engine, but I think it's getting some new respect. So just to recap, this engine is going into Glenn's 1972 Pontiac LeMans, and he's done a frame-off restoration on this car, and it's very beautiful. So the foundation was, he had a 350. The car came out of West Texas, or no, excuse me, it was bought new in New Mexico. I think it lived its life in West Texas. The other block was not savable, unfortunately. So our good friend Larry at One Man Garage, he's our good Pontiac friend and expert. And he set us up with, I believe, an earlier 350 block, but it checked out good, and it ended up going 30 over. We took it to the machine shop, magnafluxed everything was great. So went ahead and had everything honed. We decked the block, and what we decided was Glenn wanted a cruiser for this 72 LeMans, and he wanted something with a little extra power, and I would say it's kind of a resto mod, you could say, hybrid, like kind of what some of my cars are. So this thing's going to be fuel injected with overdrive and the whole works. And he wanted something around 400 horsepower. So we called our friends at Butler, who are my Pontiac experts, and I get nothing but outstanding service from Butler Performance. And again, I'm not getting any plugs or getting anything out of Butler. It's just, I like to recognize good suppliers when you get that. In the aftermarket community, automotive community, we need to really recognize our suppliers. They're really good ones. So in the Pontiac community, I really like Butler. So I called the folks at Butler and I said, hey, I want to build a 350 Pontiac engine. Can we get to something that's got a respectable amount of power? He's not going to be drag racing this car. He's not going to be showing out. I mean, I'm sure he'll blow the tires off of it every now and then, but he wants to take this trip, his wife, his kids, out on a long road trip with AC going, turn the key with EFI and shift into overdrive and enjoy the car. So the guys at Butler said, hey, I think I know what you need. So they have a stroker kit for the small block Pontiac, the 350. Now, the differences are, I believe, when you compare this to the small block Chevy, the Pontiac 350 has a smaller bore but a longer stroke. So with the bores being a little bit smaller, it's somewhat hard to kind of find a cylinder head that's not shrouded by the small bore. Luckily, the block we got from Larry, it already had the reliefs in it for the larger valves. So that was a total win. And thank you, Larry. Thank you very, very much for setting us up with this. So, as you can see, while we were waiting on the parts to come from Butler, we totally vatted the block twice, flushed everything out, and I gotta tell you, it was very hard finding the 1972 blue, or I guess you call it it's a Pontiac specific color, and it was only used for 2 years. I went to the Pontiac Historical Society. I think it was used from 72 to 74. Finally found it, and that's why you see a lot of the components are painted, and we flushed everything and then painted it, so that's why you see that. So starting off with the bottom end, we went with the Butler Performance 383, 388 balanced rotating assembly stroker kit. And you enter the desired compression that you're looking for. And this needs to be pump gas friendly. So we wanted something around 9.8, 10-to-1 compression. Because of the aluminum heads, we get away with a little bit more compression. So we have Federal Mogul High Performance Series main bearings. We've got Ross custom pistons. I'm gonna show you guys all this stuff here in a moment, but I just want to run down what we've got here. We've got 30 over Ross pistons. It comes out to a 3905 bore. Classic race piston rings. We've got an Eagle 4340 forged H-beam rods that we're going to share with you guys in a moment. And obviously a 4-inch stroke crank, brand new. And then of course, looks like we ended up on Pontiacs. You gotta pay attention to the flex plate when how it's balanced. So this has a neutrally balanced flex plate from Butler. Moving on, we ordered, Glenn wanted to go, he didn't want to take any chances on a flat tappet cam, and I don't blame him. I totally understand. That's really the better way to go these days. So he said, hey, I'm just going to spend the extra money. I don't want to take any chances. Let's just go ahead and go with the roller cam, the roller Valvetrain. So we've got a Butler comp, Pontiac custom grind, and this is a, I'm going to go over the specs here in a moment, but it's a comp cam with comp rollers. So let's look at the specs on the cam. The cam is obviously installed in the engine, but the cam is, for the specs, if you look right here, our advertised duration is 269, 275, but at 50, we've got a 218, 224 lobe. Lobe sep is 114, and our lift is 495 and 503. So it's a dual pattern roller. Our lifters have been soaking, but the part number on the lifters are comp, looks like it's an 85701-16. They're hydraulic rollers. It's a hydraulic roller cam. Moving on, up top, actually, you want to look at the pistons here. Here's our pistons, and here's the specs. These are our Ross pistons. They're beautiful. Got the Butler insignia there at the top. And then here's our specs. So if you look at our specs here on the pistons, this is what we've got. This is beautiful. This is how Butler rolls. They have all their stuff together, man. They really do. So now going to the cylinder head. The cylinder head is a D-port, Pontiac D-port aluminum cylinder head. And these are Edelbrocks, and yes, we painted them. Glenn wants the engine to look as factory as possible. Now, I know you Pontiac gurus, you're gonna know as soon as you look, you're gonna see the insignia there on the front, but still, this is a really nice cylinder head. It's got somewhat of a closed chamber. Looks like we've got by the way, I wanna back up. When you order, you have the option, when you order the cam, you've got to pay attention to your valve spring setup. So Butler will set the heads up for the valve spring pressures according to the cam. So everything on the heads are set up. I always, when I build an engine, I'm not a cylinder head guru. I always take it to my local machine shop or the supplier, and I let them set the valve spring height and the pressures. They know what they're doing. I take no chances on that. So Butler has an option to set the valve springs up and set the cylinder heads up and according to the. So our intake is a 211 intake, and our exhaust is looks like a 166. So the exhaust valves look kind of small, but somewhat of a large intake valve. That's for what we've got right here. So again, all this information's here on the headwork or with the paperwork that comes from Butler. Now, I want to look, I know everybody's going to know, and I want to know, what do the heads flow? So I looked it up on my phone, and according to Edelbrock, and to Butler, the cylinder heads flow at, it looks like at 400, they flow 237. I'm just going to go really quick. At 237, and then at 500 lift, looks like they hit about 251. If you get up to 600 lift, they'll go up to 262, but we're not going that far. Again, that's from Butler's website. So we've got more than enough head flow with the lift on this cam and where we're at to surpass 400 horsepower. Should be no problem. And the bigger thing that I want, not just horsepower, but because of this LeMans, you know, it's probably a decently weighted car. I'm just going to guess maybe, you know, with being an AC car and probably has a lot of options, probably between 36 and 3,700 pounds. So that torque is really, really what he's going to feel when he goes ahead and lays the wood to it. But we're really excited. We had to get a new pan. Obviously, the pan that we had was rusted and just too far gone. So got a new pan. That's also from Butler. Now, let me say, we did notice, and Butler told us this, you do have to elongate a few of the holes. We're not going to do that until we get the windage tray and all that stuff on, but there are a few things that you got to kind of modify. Moving up to the top of the heads, we have our PRW from Butler, PRW branded roller rockers. I've used these before on some FE engines, and I had great success with them. Again, for what we're doing, these should be really good, but we got these from Butler, and I'm not sure if they're 1.5s or 1.6s. I will let you know. Sometimes they're stamped on there. I'll have to look and see. I don't think these are, here we go. These are a 1.52 ratio rocker. So you can see right there, 1.52. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe my fat fingers are in the way, but that's what they are. So we have a nice Valvetrain. Now when it comes, as everybody knows, when you go over towards a roller lifters, you're going to have to measure for a push rod length. And my friend Brian Smith back in Texas is a Manton dealer, and I'll give him the measurements. I'll tell him what the diameter needs to be, what the material needs to be. He always wants to know what's the specs on the cam and the lift. He wants all of that information so he can help us be successful. So when we get to that point, we'll probably have a video of measuring our push rod length, and we'll get that order in to Brian, and he'll have those push rods drop shipped to our address directly from Manton. So that'll be later in the build. So moving up top, kind of getting close to the, oh, and let me also share before I forget about it. Here's our I-beam connecting rods. So Gwen, you got a nice set of connecting rods here, a lot better than those I-beam stockers. So really nice set of I-beam connecting rods. And something else of note, I just want to say, everybody has their own way of building. Here it is right here. Their own methods of building engines. I've got a lot of these now, but if you start building engines, you'll notice a big difference. I prefer basically the solid ring, that's the tapered ring compressors. This just makes it so easy, and it just prevents any opportunity of breaking a ring upon assembly. No, we don't go pounding them in with a hammer and all that. We like to go nice and easy and lubricate everything, but it just really makes. This is obviously the 3.905 bore for our pistons, for the Pontiac. So I have some other Pontiac rings, but they're all for your 389s and 400s. This is actually my first 350 build on a Pontiac. We've done, like I said, done plenty of the 389s and the 400s. Don't believe we've done a 421, and I don't believe we've done a 455 yet. But when we do one, I will buy those rings. I have a whole drawer set. Small and big block Chrysler, tapered rings, Ford, and Chevrolet, and Oldsmobile. So kind of still building up some of my Pontiac stuff. So after we get past that, with our roller rocker system, our roller Valvetrain, the nice cylinder heads, going back to my good friend Larry, he found us a factory intake for, I think this came from a Firebird or a Trans Am. Maybe, I don't know, but this is obviously for the spread bore carburetor. It would have been a Quadrajet, but this number, some of my Pontiac friends out there, you guys can tell me. I know Larry spoke very highly of this for what we're doing, for what we're trying to build for a street car. So what's going on top of this is the Holley Sniper Quadrajet style EFI system. So this is going to be a really cool setup. He's going to have that same sound that Quadrajet made back in the day, but it's going to be a really cool build. And I believe, now I've got my set of headers that are set up for Pontiac for the run stand. After we get this thing built, obviously we'll run it on the test stand. But Glenn's going to go with the, I forgot what they're called. They're the long ram exhaust manifolds for a Pontiac that'll fit the LeMans GTO body. I've installed those on a 68 Firebird and they ran fantastic. If I had a 68 Firebird or a 70 GTO, LeMans, whatever it may be, I wouldn't even bother with headers for a street car, at least anyway. Those exhaust manifolds on those Pontiacs, those, I don't know if they call them long ram. They are offered through Butler, through a company, I believe it's out of Arizona, but they work extremely well. So this is pretty much the build that we've got going on for the Pontiac. I know it was, we did a short video, but I kind of want to get down into the nitty gritty. And for our good friend Glenn down there in South Texas, he's finally going to get to see his engine start coming together. So I really appreciate anybody's comments, criticisms, anything that you guys think that, oh, and one more thing, we are replacing the windage tray. The windage tray is pretty nasty. So we'll be replacing the, I'm sorry, the valley tray, excuse me. The valley tray is pretty nasty. So we're going to be replacing that valley tray. We also got the new windage tray. I'll get into the details of Pontiac, and they kind of get a little weird on their dipstick arrangements. It's really not weird, it's just different, that's all. So nothing wrong with the design. It's just, like I said, a lot of people, they're used to building Chevys. Obviously, I've had some Pontiacs come in and I couldn't figure out what was going on, and I think that some guys that never built Pontiacs tried to put Chevy dipsticks in them, and yeah. So anyway, I won't blabber on anymore, everybody. I hope everybody gets something out of this, including myself, but we're really excited for this build and really can't wait after it's all built to see it go into Glenn's car. So hope everybody has a good day.